Hello, I'm Mark Ware with the Somerset Historical Center and the Historical and Genealogical Society of Somerset County. I'm also a small hobby-sized maple producer in Somerset County, Pennsylvania. I'm proud to share some history about maple sugaring within our own county. Our high elevation, abundance of maple trees, and large farm population makes it ideally suited for making maple products. So it's easy to see why we have been the largest maple producing county in Pennsylvania for over 200 years. The earliest documented account of maple sugaring being done in this region comes from a 1762 journal entry of John Heckwalter, a missionary who was traveling through the country. He stated that a few settlers living near the old Fort Stony Creek site brought a sugar trough in the nearby woods to ferry him and his party across the swollen Stony Creek River. The large German population living here provided some unique terms, equipment, and processes to the maple industry. I'll share some of the history, technology, and lore of sugaring in Somerset County over the years. Some basic maple knowledge you must know is that the maple season is early spring, when the weather is freezing cold in the evening and warm and sunny in the daytime. When this happens, atmospheric pressures inside the tree cause the sugar water to drip from a hole drilled into the tree. It takes about 40 gallons of sugar water or sap to produce a single gallon of maple syrup. A gallon of syrup can produce 7 to 8 pounds of maple sugar. The earliest method of tapping the trees involved cutting a slash in a tree and inserting a chip of wood to direct the flow of sap to a vessel. This was soon abandoned as it was very detrimental to the tree. They then turned to boring a hole about the size of your finger into the tree. To direct the flow of sap from the tree to a collecting vessel, wooden tubes or spiles were fashioned from the tree of a 9-bark or elderberry shrubs. Early collection vessels were placed on the ground at the base of the tree. If roots or rocks prohibited the vessel to sit close to the tree, the wooden spiles had to be long enough to direct the flow of water into the vessel, hence the different lengths of the wooden spiles. In time, cast iron spiles and sheet metal spiles replaced the wooden ones, and hooks were added to hang the buckets directly under the spile. To catch the sugar water as it dripped from the tree, wooden hewn troughs were placed on the ground at the base of the tree. Around the 1830s, though, wooden stave buckets fashioned by local coopers started to replace the troughs. These buckets, called keelers in Somerset County, were scalded with hot water and scrubbed with brushes fashioned out of a single piece of hickory wood. In time, the wooden keelers gave way to metal buckets. Over the years, plastic buckets and plastic bags were used. Most producers today, though, use plastic tubing, which eliminates having to empty the buckets, saving time, labor, and costs. The sugar water was gathered in wagons or sleds fitted with elongated wooden tanks, which were pulled through the woods by horses or tractors. The sugar water was then unloaded by gravity flow into large wooden troughs to store it until they could get it boiled. The sugar water was boiled in kettles up to the mid-1800s in the open woods, or sometimes a crude lean-to provided some shelter for the maple producers. Later, wooden sugar camps were built to protect the boilers and store equipment in the off-season. These early camps once could be found at the base of hillsides close to streams that provided water for cleaning the maple equipment. Kettles were a slow way to evaporate the sugar water. To speed up the process, flat-bottom evaporators were built. These had a larger surface exposed to the flame, enabling them to boil larger amounts of sugar water at a faster rate. They also discovered that directing the flow through the pan produced a better quality since they didn't have to continually boil the same syrup for a long period of time. Today's evaporators have a bottom with deep ridges to expose more heating surfaces using a smaller fire. These pans would only be 2 to 3 feet wide, but with the ridges in the bottom would be the equivalent of having a pan several times the width of the flue scrunched up into 2 or 3 feet. Advances in the maple industry always involve saving labor, speeding up the evaporating process, and using less fuel. In the early years before tin, glass, or plastic containers to store syrup were obtained, nearly all maple products were stored in the form of maple sugar rather than syrup in liquid form. The sugar would keep better and could be stored in a molded form or granulated. Early sugar molds were made of wood, with later ones being made of tin or cast iron. Today's molds are made of rubber or silicone. Sugar could be stored in wooden boxes or bins, with much of the maple sugar being molded into 5-pound brick sizes that could be loaded into a railroad car for shipping. One of the favorite activities in early maple sugar camps was to invite friends and family to the camp to help stir sugar and do some socializing at the close of the season. Syrup would be boiled down to about 250 degrees and drizzled onto snow or into a tin of cold water to produce a clear taffy-like treat. These treats were called spotza in Somerset County and continue to be a favorite treat at festivals and maple sugar camps. Maple products continue to be a large family farm operation within the county.